Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Finance and Audit Committee meeting of the Dutchess County IDA. Jasmine, would you take a roll call, please?
Kathy Bauer.
Here.
Jamie Pacone.
Here.
Don Sagliano.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from our Finance and Committee meeting on October 4th. Everyone's had an opportunity to review. Would somebody be willing to make a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes.
And I will second that motion. Jasmine?
Jamie Pacone.
Approve.
Kathy Bauer.
Approved. Okay, next we have to review our 2023 audit. We have RBT Accountings here. We have Shannon. Shannon, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So for the IDA on page 1 is the opinion. So the IDA in that second paragraph did receive a clean opinion. And if we move to, because the opinion is 3 pages, but that's the main gist of it, that second paragraph there. So page 4 is really a summary of the financials, and this is what we'll really focus on. So the summary of net position, it shows your assets, liabilities, and your net position. So you can see your assets have gone up almost 1.4 there. Current and other assets are up 709,000, and your non-current assets are up 658,000. And your current and other liabilities are up 214,000. So that's a good ratio to have there. And your net position is up 1.154. So overall, it's a strong year for the IDA. And that's due to how your summary of revenue, expenses, and changes in net positions down below. So your administrative and closing fees have gone up 1.48, and that is mainly due to your Belfield revenue, which was 2 different chunks, which was 905,000 and 302,000. And then you had Arthur May for 240,000, and then you had Can-Am for 217,000. You have interest earnings there of 98,000, and your total expenses only went up 22,000. So in comparison to last year, you ended up with a change in net position of 1.5. So that's how your net position went up so much in the current year. So overall, a very strong year for the IDA. Pages 5 and 6 are just a summary of the year and the projects, and that comes from Sarah. And then page 7 is it's a detail of your assets and liabilities. So the only thing I'd like to really point out here is you have a current asset for your accounts receivable, and then you have a long-term receivable, and that's just the way that an agreement was structured for Arthur May and for Belfield. So Arthur May, you're going to get a chunk in 2024 for revenue that came in 2023. In Belfield, you'll receive a chunk in 2024, 2025, and 2026. So that's what that $603,000 that's sitting in that long-term receivable. But you had to record it in 2023.
Right, so the accrual is that the revenue's been recognized.
It has been
2023.
recognized, but the money doesn't physically
Right.
come in to the IDA until those years.
No problem.
And the only other thing that I'd like to point out there on the liability side is that for 205,000 there, Arlington Pilot due back for $150,000. Other than that, everything is pretty status quo. And on page 8, we already talked about how your revenue went up. So from 250,000 last year to about 1.7. So
Just one question. The Cricket Valley, how long does that stay in our books, that escrow? For a long time, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So as long as the pilot? or-
Yes,
Okay.
as long as
Just-
pilot, it's a 30-year.
'cause I always see it on our financials.
Yep.
Okay,
but you will see that
Right.
your asset and liability
Yeah.
always agree.
right.
Good question.
No, just a yep.
Yep. So page 9 is just your cash flow. So it just shows the in and outs of how you get to your cash balances. Page 10 is just a summary of your accounting policies. Same thing with 11 and 12, just your standard notes that are required. And then we go to your other information, which is just for readers of the financial statement. So page 13 is your conduit debt. So there's over $19 million between Davies South Terrace and Marist College. And then pages 14 through, I believe it is 21, are your projects, and it shows the tax exempt, so the sales tax, the real property tax, the pilots, and the FTEs for all the different projects. So some of the information still isn't in yet, and that's what the highlights are there for. So we're hoping by the time that we present final to the board, that information will be in.
Yes, so we've already received some
Okay, yeah.
additional information.
And that's supplemental, so this information does not change the financial information, the numbers and the body of the statement.
Or the
And again,
opinion.
so, and that's not audited numbers, this is just for supplemental information.
And then I just want to let the committee members know that sales tax is, the projects are not required to report their sales tax spending for the previous year until the end of February 29th of this year. And what happens is, part of the agreement is, then we get a copy of that filing. So we don't always get the copy of the filing on the 29th, we'll get it like a few weeks later. So even at the board meeting, there is a possibility that the sales
Correct.
tax information may not be.
And we do have a little tick mark, as we like to call it in our world, but we have a little note here. So if we don't get it, you'll see the 3 stars there, and that's if we don't get it by the time we do bring it to the board for the final report.
Okay, so on the sales tax, each year is fluid, but there's a max that we approved
Yes, yes.
until the project's closed and then it's off.
Exactly, and then, yeah, and we record that.
Right.
Add that amount, because if they go over it, we
Right,
have to.
which has happened.
Which has happened.
And then finally, you have your other reporting required by governmental auditing standards, because you are a public authority. And page 24, there were no internal control findings and no compliance findings, so.
So that's like the findings from the management letter, that's,
Well, yes, there are no findings in the management letter, but this is also from even higher level. So this is from governmental standards. You don't have any internal control findings and no compliance findings. So with a management letter, you could have suggestion letters,
Right.
comments, which are lower level, but you don't have any of those either.
so there's no internal control.
There's no internal control, no compliance, and no suggestions at all.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right, okay, with that, I'd like to see if there's like a motion to have a recommendation made to present the audit to the board at the next board meeting.
I'll make a recommendation that we recommend.
I will second that.
Okay, Jamie Pacone?
We have to wait, for the, okay.
I'm gonna approve the recommendation.
Kathy Bell?
I approve it also. Any old business?
No.
New business? All right, we are adjourned.